Welcome to the video solutions for the NCFE Functional Skills Level 2 Reading Sample Paper 1. Before watching this video, make sure that you've read the documents associated with this paper and you've had a go at completing the paper yourself. So let's get started. So question 1 asks, in paragraph 2 of document 1, the writer repeats the word our several times. Give 2 reasons why she has done this. So we're looking specifically at document 1 here, and we're looking at paragraph 2 for this technique called repetition of the word our. So repetition in a text is often used to emphasise the author's point and to create an effect on the reader. And we need to give 2 reasons why she's done this. So let's scroll up and have a read of paragraph 2. So we can see that's here. But the bosses who should be working to serve the public in our hospitals, our universities, our police forces and our councils have been cashing it in. They've been lining their own pockets and cheating the taxpayer out of millions of pounds. So we can see the repetition of our here. And we can see that this has added emphasis to the text. So the student here has put to emphasise that the services are funded by and belong to the taxpayer. So we can see that our here is emphasising that the services belong to us as the taxpayer. And then the second reason we can see says to stress that the people who work in these services should be working to help the taxpayer, not just themselves. So we can see the repetition of our shows that the services belong to everyone, they belong to the taxpayer, so they should be working to help the taxpayer instead of lining their own pockets. So we can see here that the emphasis and the repetition of our emphasises that the services are funded and belong to the taxpayer, and also to stress that the people who work in these services should be working to help the taxpayer and not just themselves and lining their own pockets. Question 2. Give 2 phrases that imply the writer considers public sector managers to be selfish. So again, we've got to find 2 phrases to get those 2 marks there, so make sure you're not just writing 1. And we need to find 2 phrases that imply the writer considers public sector managers to be selfish. So, public sector managers to be selfish, and this word imply just means underlying meaning. So, it might not be super obvious what they mean, but we need to sort of infer or work it out from the underlying meaning. So the student here has put the council leaders earning over £400,000 a year, whilst at the same time cutting services to local people. So we can see that in the text here, and it's under the subheading what we have uncovered, so it's kind of implying that they've worked this out about the public sector leaders and that they might not want the public to know about this. So obviously here we can see that council leaders, if they're earning quite a high figure salary, but at the same time they're cutting services to local people, we could imply that the underlying meaning there is that they are selfish. So that would be a correct reason for this question. And then the second thing that the student has put is they have been lining their own pockets and cheating the taxpayer out of millions of pounds. So if we have a look in the document, we can see that here, so lining their own pockets and cheating the taxpayer out of millions of pounds. So this phrase, lining their own pockets, just means sort of looking after themselves. So the implication there is also that they're selfish. So we can say that that would be correct as well, and they've got the 2 marks there. Question 3. Why has the writer used each of the following organisational features? And we've got A, subheading, and B, bullet points. So we need to say why the writer has used both the subheading and bullet points in the text. So organisational features, so subheadings and bullet points are examples of these. They're basically just anything that helps to split the text up and make it easier for the reader to sort of navigate the text and digest it. So let's have a look at subheading then. So if we scroll up to the text, we can see that the subheadings are used. So we've got various subheadings. So for example, what we've uncovered, action. So the subheadings here help to split up the text and help the reader to find different parts of the text. So to split up the text into different sections would be a correct answer. Bullet points. So if we scroll up to the text, we can see that the bullet points here, and they're under the subheading what we have uncovered. So we can say that the bullet points here break up the text into information about different jobs in order to make it easier to read. So we've got different jobs here, so they've uncovered things about different jobs, so the leader of a hospital, council leaders, a council boss, and university leaders. So we can say that it's showing the different information about what they've uncovered about different jobs. Question 4. Give 2 reasons why the writer has made use of so many statistics in document 1. So again, we need to give 2 reasons here to get the 2 marks. And we need to give 2 reasons as to why the writer has used so many statistics in document 1. Statistics are just facts and figures, usually to do with numbers or percentages, but they're basically facts that can be verified. So the first reason we've got here is to persuade the reader that the information about public sector pay is factual and verifiable. Well, if we scroll up to the document, we can see that there are lots of different facts and figures and statistics about public sector pay. So we've got NHS nurses pay will have fallen by 12% by the end of this decade, but some NHS managers are on more than £100,000 a year. So that sort of use of a statistic is going to add credibility to the text and make it verifiable and factual. So that would be a correct answer. And then the second reason we've got here is to help the reader understand the discussion of pay comparisons in the text. So here, for example, we've got the police chiefs have complained about the cuts to services, but some of them are reported to be on more than £200,000 a year. The starting wage for a recruit is just under 20,000. So this is a really clear, using numbers here, so really clear comparison between what the police chiefs are on and what starting police recruits would be on. So that is another way statistics are used to help the reader understand the discussion of pay comparisons in the text. So students given 2 correct reasons why the writer has made use of statistics in the text. Question 5. Give 1 reason why a reader would visit the website referred to at the end of document 1. So let's have a look at the document, and we can see at the end of the document we've got a website here, www.hmore.biz, and we can see that a reader might visit this website if they wanted to discover more about the inequality in public sector pay. So the answer here would be if they want to know more about public sector pay, or if they want to know more about the inequality in public sector pay. Question 6. So the questions in this section refer to document 2. So we can forget about document 1 for now, and we've got a new document. So question 6 says, what best describes the tone of document 2? So tone is the overall mood or feeling of the text. So think about when you're reading a text, what it makes you feel, and that will usually be along the right lines of the tone. So the answer here we've got is A, serious. So let's have a quick scan of the document. So we can see that it's a report on the risks to public sector management. So already we can see it's quite a serious topic, and it's a report which is usually quite a serious text type with lots of facts and figures and statistics. We've got very formal language that's been used throughout, and we've got references here to footnotes at the bottom. So it's a very professional document. We've got very professional language such as widespread negative comments and managerial staff. It's very formal, professional language. Then in the summary here, it's almost like a warning. So unless our public sector managers feel valued, research indicates that they will continue to leave the sector altogether. So this is quite a serious warning almost, warning that unless the public sector managers feel valued, they will continue to leave the sector. So we can say that the tone is definitely serious throughout. Let's have a quick check that none of the other options also fit. So optimistic, so optimistic just means to be sort of hopeful and confident about the future. Well, we definitely don't think it's optimistic. We've got quite a sombre tone at the end here, so warning that public sector managers will leave the sector altogether. So definitely not really optimistic. Polite, well, it's not particularly polite. We've got phrases such as witch hunt, which is quite forceful, and the writer wants to make it clear that this is a serious topic. They're getting their point across, but they're not particularly doing it in a very polite way, so it doesn't seem to be that one. And sarcastic, so sarcastic is just when someone says something that they don't really mean, usually in order to create comedic or humorous effect. Well, there's no comedy in this document. It is very serious. It's a serious topic, and there's no attempts at sarcasm. So we can say here that the answer is A, serious. Question 7. Give 2 words that identify the style of writing used. So again, we need to give 2 words for the 2 marks. And we need to identify the style of writing. So the style of writing is how the writer uses language, so words, sentence structure, and then what sort of words sum that up. So we've got formal and informative here. Other options for this are formal, professional, official, and factual. So we've got very formal language here. We've got phrases like by comparison, proper sentences, proper grammar throughout. We've got different subheadings, introduction and summary for a report, which is usually a very formal document. We can also say the style is quite official. The source it's from is the Association of Senior Management, so we've got a very official source there who have written the document. We've got phrases such as executive summary, which add to the informative and official style. And we've also got a lot of information in this. There's a lot of content, which is informing the reader, so we could also have an informative style. So the student here has put formal and informative, but you could also have things like professional, official and factual. Question 8. Document 2 states over half of applications for leadership jobs at a top university in Australia were from UK-based applicants. Where was this fact previously published? Okay, so we need to look at document 2 and we need to look for this fact here. So let's have a quick scan of the document. And we can see that is stated here. So over half of applications for leadership jobs at a top university in Australia were from UK-based applicants. And we can see here we've got this little 2, and that is what we call a reference or a footnote. So we need to find this little 2 elsewhere in the document, and we can see that it is here. And this footnote here tells us where they've got that fact from. So we can see that this fact was originally published in Where to Work, International Economist magazine, January 2018. So that would be correct. Question 9. Describe 2 ways in which the writer presents a positive image of managers in the public sector. So in this question we need to describe 2 ways for 2 marks in which the writer presents a positive image of managers in the public sector. So we're looking for methods or ways in which the writer presents a positive image of managers in the public sector. So if we scroll up, we can see a lot of positive language surrounding managers in the public sector. For example, it says they recommended that their pay and benefits should be increased to match the level of responsibilities they have. So it's suggesting that they have a lot of responsibilities which they're not paid fairly for. Also calls them high-flying managers and says we need to value them and pay them fairly to ensure that public services in the UK remain in the hands of dedicated professionals. So it's very positive language talking about the public sector managers. So that is one way which the writer creates a positive image. So they use positive language. The second reason is they compare their pay with the payment given to managers in the private sector. So if we have a look here, we've got this subheading comparison, and it talks about how senior managers in the private sector in the UK can expect to take home a 6-figure salary with bonuses. They earn more than £1 million a year. By comparison, those working in the public sector lag far behind. So we're comparing the very different salaries and saying that private sector workers and managers earn a lot more than public sector workers. So they compare their pay with the payment given to managers in the private sector, and in that they imply that the public sector managers should earn more than they do. Question 10. Which section mentions the possibility of increasing the pay of managers in education? So we're looking for the section of the document which mentions the possibility of increasing the pay of managers in education. And these are the different sections that we've got. So we can see, if we scroll up to the document, that these are the different subheadings. So we've got the document is divided into sections using these subheadings, and we need to work out which section talks about the possibility of increasing the pay. So if we have a quick scan, we can see that the word increased crops up here. So if we read the sentence to check, to encourage managers to stay in public jobs in health, education and police, it is recommended that their pay and benefits should be increased to match the level of responsibilities that they have. So we can see there that this is mentioning the possibility of increasing the pay of managers in education. So it talks about health, education and police. So what section is that in? It's in the summary section. So the answer here would be D, summary. Question 11. What is the meaning of the phrase witch hunt as used under choices in document 2? So we're looking for the meaning of the phrase witch hunt, and it's in this section of the document, so under the subheading choices. So if we have a look at the document, we can see that it's mentioned here. So the apparent witch hunt against senior managers in the public sector means society is faced with a stark choice. So we can see that we've got a little asterisk here, or a little star, which usually takes you to some extra information at the bottom of the document. So we can see that there is some extra information here, which is telling us what witch hunt means. So the term witch hunt was first used in the Middle Ages, when thousands of women were accused of practicing witchcraft and were burnt at the stake. Nowadays it is used to describe any campaign against a particular group of people. So we know from this that it is used to describe a campaign against a particular group of people. And then if we look here, the apparent witch hunt against senior managers in the public sector. So from the context here, we can work out that it is a campaign against senior managers in the public sector. So that would be correct. Okay, moving on to section 3. So the questions in this section refer to document 3. So we've got another document to have a look at now. So question 12 says, identify one fact and one opinion stated in document 3. So a fact is something that can be verified or proven. It can be statistics or numbers or anything that we can verify to be true. An opinion is therefore the opposite, so it can't be proven, it can't be verified, and it's usually just someone's thoughts or feelings. So we need to identify one fact and one opinion in document 3. And we've got 2 marks, so one for the fact and one for the opinion. So the fact that the student has put here is the NHS is facing a 15% increase in demand every year. Well, we've got a 15% increase here, we've got a fact, a statistic in there. So this can definitely be proven. We could prove this to be true or false. The NHS is facing a 15% increase in demand every year. So that would be a fact. The opinion the student has put, the highest compliment you can pay someone is to be jealous of them. Well, we can't verify that, it's simply someone's opinion. We could argue that is not true and it's not the highest compliment you can pay someone. So therefore it is just somebody's opinion. So we've got one fact and one opinion there from the document. Question 13, give 2 reasons why Rahima thinks it is worth getting into debt as a student in order to gain a qualification. So we need to give 2 reasons here why Rahima, so we need to specifically make sure we're looking at Rahima's contribution, thinks it is worthwhile getting into debt as a student in order to gain a qualification. So we might be looking at some benefits that Rahima thinks she's going to get from the debt, which mean that it is worthwhile. So we've got 2 answers here that the student has given for the 2 marks. So they've said she'll be able to pay off her student debt if she gets a well-paid job, and she will earn a decent salary. So let's go up to the source and see where we can find that. So we can see, if we have a quick look, that Rahima's contribution is here. So we only need to be focusing on this. So let's have a read. I'm a student with a massive debt, which will take years to pay back. However, once qualified, I hope to get a job that pays well, possibly with the police or health service. I'm happy to see managers paid a good salary for what they do. It means I will be able to pay off my student debt, earn a decent salary and pay my taxes, so everyone benefits. So we can see here that Rahima says that she will earn a decent salary from this student debt because she'll be able to get a job that pays well. She's also said that she'll be able to pay off her student debt if she gets one of these high paid managerial roles. And then she also says that she'll be able to pay her taxes so that everyone benefits from her salary. So the student here has put she'll be able to pay off her student debt if she gets a well-paid job, which is a correct benefit. It means that the debt is worthwhile, and she'll also earn a decent salary. So they've got 2 correct answers for the 2 marks there. Question 14. Consider Cecil's contribution. Give 2 examples of what he is implying. Okay, so we need to look at Cecil's contribution now, and we need to give 2 examples of what he is implying. So this word implying just means it's not obvious, so he's not literally saying it. We have to look for the underlying meaning in what he's saying. Okay, so the student here has put he implies that some people should shut up and stop complaining about high wages in public sector. And then they've also put he implies that some people are envious or jealous of the high wages. Okay, so let's go up to the source and find Cecil's contribution, which we can see is here. For all those who complain how much some people get paid, I have a message. Shut up and pay up. The highest compliment you can pay someone is to be jealous of them. Okay, so we can see here he's saying the highest compliment you can pay someone is to be jealous of them. So we can see that from the rest of what he said, we said that people are complaining about people's wages. So we can see that the link there means that he's saying that they are simply jealous of what people are getting paid. So he implies that some people are envious or jealous of high wages is correct. And then he also says, I have a message, shut up and pay up. So he's implying there that people should shut up and get on with it and stop complaining about high wages in the public sector. So we've got 2 examples of what Cecil is implying in his contribution there. Okay, moving on to section 4 then. So the questions in this section refer to multiple documents, so make sure that you read the question really carefully to make sure that you know which documents you should be referring to in your answer. So question 15. So compare the views of Ray in document 3 with the views expressed in document 1 and how these views are conveyed. So there is a few things that this questioner is asking us to do. So we want to compare. So this just means we need to talk about more than one document and compare what they talk about and how they talk about it. So we need to compare the views of Ray in document 3 with the views expressed in document 1. And we also need to talk about and compare how these views are conveyed. So how these views are conveyed just means the methods used by the writers in order to get their views across. So with questions like this, we've obviously got just a small portion of document 3 to focus on, and the whole of document 1. So it makes more sense to start with the smaller portion, so the views of Ray in document 3, and have a think about the views expressed in that and see if we can see any similarities or differences with the views expressed in document 1. So the student here in their answer has clearly signposted to the examiner what they're talking about and when, so they put in document 1, and Ray here, so Ray in document 3. And we've got a method here straight away. So the writer uses convincing statistics. So that is the method, that's how the views are conveyed. To support their view, so this is how the views are conveyed, and they're supporting their view that greedy managers in the public sector are lining their pockets and cheating the taxpayer out of their money. And then we've got this comparison. So we've said Ray agrees with document 1. So Ray in document 3 agrees with the views of document 1. And then we've got another method. So again, uses statistics to support this. Comparative language is used. So we've got the word similarly here, which is really good to show that you're completing that comparison. Then the student has gone on to identify another method, so repeatedly uses the word our. To engage the reader and convince them that the issue of the public sector pay affects them personally. So we've got this inclusion of the reader using the word our, which convinces the reader that it is an issue that affects them and involves them. Then we've got this word similarly again when talking about Ray, so we're showing that comparison again, and we're talking about direct address. So direct address is when the writer uses the word you or your, and it has the same effect of this here, so it directly talks to the reader and involves them in the issue. Then finally here in this paragraph we've got a summary. So while document 1 argues against public sector managers, Ray is a manager himself, and he presents himself as a hero who is working to improve the lives of others rather than receiving higher pay in a private sector job. So we've got a nice succinct summary there talking about the differing views between document 1 and Ray's views in document 3. And then we've got the word similarly again, showing that document 3, Ray's contribution in document 3, similarly uses direct address. And throughout the answer, we've got lots of quotes or evidence from the texts to back up the points. So to round off then, the answer answers the question fully. So it compares the views of Ray in document 3 and the views in document 1. It talks about the specific views and also the methods the writers use to convey their views. And it's also made sure to directly compare them. So it said how similar or different the views are. Question 16. Analyse all 3 documents and explain which document is the most biased. Okay, so for this question we need to look at all 3 documents and we need to explain which document is the most biased. So this keyword explain means that we need to say why. So we can't just say document 1 is the most biased. We need to explain why we know that. So the student here has talked about document 1 and they've said that document 1 is the most biased. So you get 1 mark in the mark scheme just for simply identifying which document is the most biased, but we've got 4 marks to get here, so that's not enough. We need to explain why we know that, and we also need to tell the examiner why the other 2 documents aren't the most biased. So biased just means coming down on one side of the argument more heavily and often disregarding all other points of view. So the student has identified document 1 as being the most biased, as it uses emotive language and such as shocking and cheating to convince the reader that their view is accurate. So we've said why document 1 is the most biased and how we know that. So it uses emotive language. So similar to the other question, the other long question, we've got to talk about the views expressed in the documents, and also the methods, so the way the writers convey their views. So we've got lots of different techniques in here, such as rhetorical questions, and we've got quotes from the text or evidence explaining why document 1 is the most biased. The student then goes on to write in paragraphs, so they've talked about document 1 in one paragraph, document 2 in the next, and document 3. It's making it really clear to the examiner that you have addressed each document. And they've gone on to talk about why document 2 is also biased, but it's slightly less biased than document 1. Again, using quotes and techniques which show why it is less biased. And then they've gone on to talk about document 3 and why it is the least biased, again using quotes and techniques.